Now, Jyothi will be giving you an overall introduction and about the Buddhist philosophy, followed by her own talk on the research aspects, and then Manjula will continue the research aspects. Then finally, Jyothi will conclude with the clinical aspects of Buddhist meditation. So, over to Dr. Jyothi, and I request you all to restrict your timings. This session is mainly for 1 hour. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, madam, for that kind introduction. And I thank all the organizing committee for giving me this invaluable opportunity to share whatever little I know about the Buddhist meditation. The session that I am planning to share with you is, first of all, I'll give you an overall idea about what Buddhist meditation is about. It's a very gross idea about its philosophical concepts. What is it about? Why is there so much interest in these recent times? And then after this, I'll briefly talk about the research aspects that we have undertaken in NIMHANS itself and about the international and national studies. And then after me, Dr. Manjula would also cover some of the research aspects pertaining to genetics and molecular mechanisms, and then once again I would cover about the clinical aspects. So what I would start with the basic philosophical aspects. Though the word is philosophy, actually in Indian terms it is called as philosophy is one of the has more of Western connotation in the meaning, whereas in India the Indian system of looking inwards is actually called Darshana Shastra. That would be actually philosophy. Darshana Shastra, it is called Darshana Shastra because it is looking within oneself. In contrast to the objective way of Western science, where the Western science looks outward, the Indian science first tries to understand the outside world first by knowing oneself. So whatever we are made up of, once that gets clarified, we'll be able to understand that the world is a reflection of our inner self. So the Indian science proceeds by looking from within. And in this regard, all of our Indian philosophical systems, you take any system, yoga, Buddhism, Jainism, they all start from within. Here, since the focus of our topic is on Buddhist aspects, I would like to emphasize that Buddha is also called Mahabhisakho. Mahabhisakho is the Pali term for a physician. Buddha is called one of the greatest physicians because Buddha talks about suffering and elimination of suffering. Most of us we may not even want to, some of us may even deny when it comes to the word the suffering or dukkha. The Indian word for that is dukkha, but in English the nearest translation would be suffering. So why does Buddha talk about suffering so much? Is it a pessimism? It's like if you go to a doctor, if you go to a medical doctor, you can't say that the doctor is a pessimist. The doctor, unless the doctor looks into your problem and genuinely says that you are suffering from that and genuinely goes and treats your problem, then only he will be able to bring you out. So he is helping you to come out of your problems, not the regular problems. In addition to the regular problems that we are all entrapped with, Buddha also talks about some of the other aspects of suffering, which I would try to show you. Here the Buddha says this, as most of you I think you know, this was historically documented. He was here in India 2700 years ago, actually not 25. And then in the Ayurvedic formula that was existing at that time, he gives the fourfold noble path regarding the suffering. That is, first of all, the realization, the acknowledgement that there is suffering. It is a universal, undeniable truth that there is suffering. And then the suffering that the Buddha talks has diverse aspects of unpleasant human experiences. And it is actually given in 3 types, type 1, type 2, type 3. Type 1 talks about the regular unpleasant circumstances that we are all associated in our lifetime. It is actually, there are so much of dissatisfaction with the circumstances of our lives, like the kind of regular happenings of our life, association with dislike, separation from the liked ones, not getting what we want, getting something that we do not want. These are all, and at every stage of life there are so many multiple problems that we encounter. So these are all unpleasant physical or mental experiences come to this type 1. There is not much science that we need to know to understand this type 1. There is something more which I will not talk in detail, but this is the gross thing is the vulnerability of our existence. Nothing is secure, nothing is guaranteed, or in our the position that I am taking right now is not guaranteed. It might last, it may not, it may last, it may not last. So holding on to the something that is vulnerable, something that we are susceptible to, inherent susceptibility is what the Buddha talks, and it is called the sankharas. And type 2, type 3 sufferings, these are more philosophical in nature. This is what ultimately the Buddha tells about eradicating, and the aim of Buddhist philosophy is about the ultimate liberation, which is called the nirvana or the moksha. But the thing is that whatever clinical or therapeutic benefits that we see because of Buddhist meditation is not fundamentally because that the Buddhism aims at removing the physical or mental ailments. Buddhism aims at liberating oneself totally from this what is called the bhavachakra samsara, because science, the Western science, has difficulty coming into terms with this the samsara. This is the propelling. We get propelled into life after life. It's not that we are choosing what we want to, but this is the samsara. Whatever Indian tradition, Indian philosophy talks about is coming out of the samsara chakra. So, in that sense, whatever benefits that we see are the byproducts of the meditation. Not that the meditation aims at, but they happen. And then Buddhism is fundamentally concerned with identifying the inner causes of human suffering, and it tells about the possibility of freedom from suffering. Only when you acknowledge that there is suffering, there is a possibility for you to come out of it. And it tells that there is a way to reach such freedom. And what the Indian tradition talks about the well-being, it's not just a simple well-being that we get just because of some, the external positions or so many other aspects, even the physical aspects, mental aspects, social aspects. There are so many things that can make us happy. It's not that the Buddhism doesn't deny the happiness, but it talks about a lasting state of happiness that is not dependent on extraneous or internal or external stimuli. So Buddhism talks about a state of well-being that is not dependent on other stimuli, that is the state of kusala sthiti. Then, since all of the pertinent aspects of Buddhism point to mind as the source of origin, so mind becomes the target. Mind becomes the target of the Buddha's teaching, and so the entire understanding of the natural world, the world outside of ourselves, also starts from understanding our own mind, from inwards to outwards. So everything is arising within the mind and arising from the mind, and so what we call the prapancha, the pancha is 5, pra is extension. The extension of 5, the world is the extension of the 5 sense organs. So whatever world we see is the information that we receive through our sense organs, the integration, everything is happening within ourselves. So the world is a projection of our mental state. So to efficiently, so Indian philosophy looks at it is what is called, we do the mental microscopy. It is the way to look within. But suppose we want to look at some organisms in the water. We can't just look with an ordinary vision will not help us. We need some gadgets to, like microscope, to look into the amoeba or something, the microorganisms. Similarly, that means we need to refine the way we are looking at things. So in a similar way, when we have to do the mental microscopy, there is a procedure. First of all, we have to refine the discipline the mind. We have to first discipline the mind. Here actually this is Sila, the Sila, Samadhi, Panya. We have to first of all discipline the mind. An wavering, distracted mind will not help us achieve that state that the Buddhism is aiming at. So first of all, we need to have a restraint of conduct of the mental and the physical behavior, that is by practicing Sila. And then when the physically, once you are comfortable at a physical level or a mental level, then when you are reading, it's all our common experience, when you are deeply into something, anything, any small thing that, when your mind is not in a stable form, then you will not be able to have the concentration. Samadhi is the concentration. A proper Sila will help you get into Samadhi, and the Samadhi will help you. This is the final target of the Buddhist state, insight, Panya. The Samadhi will help you get into the state of Panya. It's not that we have to wait until we develop Sila, until we develop Samadhi, that we have to attain Panya. These are all in a way interconnected. Each one is like a tripod, each one enhancing the other mental state. So all these three together have to be focused upon, and this is called the Noble Eightfold Path or Aryatangic Marga. And that is what is actually given in the Buddhist meditation. The Buddhist meditation contains two wings. One is the Samatha practice and the other is the Vipassana practice. Samatha was existing prior to the advent of the Buddha. It was there in India, whereas Vipassana is something that the Buddha added to the existing Indian meditative system. What all morning Dr. Nagaratna, Dr. Hemant Kumar, they have covered most of the aspects of Samatha. And Samatha is strong enough to take one into a very, very deep absorptive states of concentration, but that will not help one to eradicate eradicate all of what are called the mental formation sankharas that the Buddhism is aiming at. There, Vipassana is the tool that is to be taken as an add-on to the Samatha to get into the final stage of liberation. So, the typical Buddhist meditation contains Samatha and Vipassana. Samatha aims at improving concentration, whereas Vipassana aims at adding insight into a concentrated mind. A simple concentration you can here also the state of Vipassana practice is preceded by Samatha, and the Samatha is actually translated into presence or calmness, a calm or tranquil mind. And actually the Samatha is achieved. There are 40 types of objects that the Buddhist meditation talks about, where actually morning one of you have put a question because some person who has done meditation, he has developed certain seizures or something. So it happens because many times there are 40 objects of meditation, and the object of meditation should be given in accordance with the temperament of the individual. All personalities will not be able to take all meditation objects as the subject of meditation. So it is very necessary that the temperament of the person is taken into account. So what Samatha does is, it will focus all of our mind. It is just like the light rays entering it through a concave lens. They get focused onto a particular point. So the intensity and the focus increases. When the intensity and the focus of the light rays increases, what happens is that it's like the light focusing into the darkness of a cave. It brightens the interior of the cave. So this is what is Samatha. The Vipassana is the clarity with which you look at the details of the object. Samatha will help you light and focus the object, and Vipassana is the clarity of the vision with which you look into the details of the object. That is the process of looking into the reality. The reality of nature, looking into the real phenomena that are occurring within yourself, happens through the fine balance between the Samatha mental state and the Vipassana state. If one is more, the other is less, the ideal state will not be achieved. The final state of balance is of stability and clarity. That actually gives us the insight that is needed for the freedom or liberation that the Buddhism talks about. So with this brief introduction, we would move on to the research aspects. So, because of the increasing awareness of the realization of the benefits of meditation, recently within these 50 years there has been an extensive literature coming up on meditation in general and Buddhist meditation in particular. And as I told you, Buddhist meditation will have both of samatha and vipassana. So this research will be covering both of the samatha concepts as well as the vipassana concepts. And I also told you that there are 40 types of objects of meditation, and among them the anapana is the morning we have done on Nadi Shuddhi. So this anapana is a technique where it is different from the Nadi Shuddhi in the sense that you are not going to exert any effort. It is a type of samatha technique that the Buddha has used for his own enlightenment. On the day of his enlightenment, Buddha started with anapana, that is the samatha. So this research aspect will cover most of the, I think more popularly samatha is being studied as the research subject, and within samatha anapana is being studied. And morning Dr. Hemant Kumar was telling about so many of the meditation types. In fact, focused attention is this type of samatha practice where a person focuses intensely on one object. And the other one, mindfulness meditation, that Dr. Hemant Kumar was talking about is the vipassana meditation. Vipassana meditation, in fact, vipassana is to be translated as insight. Passathi is insight. So V means special way of looking at things. So vipassana uses a tool called mindfulness to inculcate insight. So mindfulness meditation that Dr. Hemant Kumar was talking about is vipassana, and he was also talking about one more aspect called open monitoring. Open monitoring is also called mindfulness meditation, is also a part of vipassana meditation, and loving kindness is also a meditation where that follows generally the samatha and vipassana meditations. The metta meditation will actually help one to strengthen the benefits accrued out of practicing samatha and vipassana. So these are all morning, whatever research he has done a lot of help for me. He has covered extensively many of the research aspects of vipassana meditation. So I would then focus upon the rest of the things. So what about the impact of meditative training? What is that the meditation is actually doing? It is inducing neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to change by experience. When it experiences something, accordingly the brain changes its neuronal patterns, and the effect of the brain, the changes in the brain get translated translated into the periphery as the interactions of the brain and the rest of the body are seen as the behavioral outcomes. So the research is also suggesting ways how these mind-body interactions are happening. The research is suggesting that there is a bidirectional communication between the brain and the periphery, and this proceeds along three of the systems: the autonomic nervous system, the endocrine system, and the immune system. What the researchers suggest is that any condition that affects the autonomic nervous system, any illness or whatever condition that pertains to the autonomic nervous system, endocrine nervous system, immune system can be actually targeted through meditation, because the direct brain-body communication occurs these through paths. Outside of this is a little difficult for the meditative training to actually alleviate. So the techniques that are available today is the EEG and the assessment of physiological parameters, autonomic parameters like HRV, blood pressure, hormonal and biochemical assessments are available to understand the impact of meditation, and the connectivity studies are happening. A fractional anisotropy is a way to study the integrity of white matter, and then bold signals, blood oxygen level dependent contrast studies are we are using those studies to understand the underlying brain regions getting activated with meditation, and arterial spin labeling is also used to understand the cerebral blood flow differences, and the psychological assessment. These are all the tools that are available today to understand the impact of meditation. And the psychometric test have already shown that the meditators are able to hold their attention for long hours of for long intervals of time. It is because, as I told you, samatha itself, anapana or whatever method of meditation that they choose to induce higher states of attention, that actually helps in the sustenance of attention for longer hours than expected in standard psychometric tests. And then they are able to switch attention too fast because the Vipassana training itself makes the person get more and more detached, so they don't hold on to anything as such. So they are able to switch their attention, but as required, and then they are able to remember details of very complex pictures. It is because they are able to get rid of their mind of the unnecessary stuff, and their focus and the sharpening actually increases with time. And then meditation is also a process of weeding out. It's nothing that they are going to add in, they are going to remove. It is actually called Visankaragatam Chitta. That is, it is a process of weeding out, freeing the mind. So the point of focus would be more precise. And in our studies at NIMHANS, in our sleep lab, we have conducted these studies. This is the EEG of a novice practitioner while he was doing meditation. He has just undergone a 10-day course of Vipassana, 1 or 2, not more than that. And this is of a teacher, Vipassana teacher, who has got 10 or 15 years of experience teaching meditation. So visually only we can see the changes in the brain signal. So this is the slow waves which are occurring in bursts. The entire window is occupied by these slow waves, but these are high amplitude. These are high frequency, low amplitude waves, and these are low frequency, high amplitude waves. So what we see is, we have done a comparative study of novice versus teachers, and this is little, I'll just tell you, this is the spectral map. This is the spectral map of a novice. This entire row is the spectral map of a novice. The first one is the state when he is in rest. This second, third, fourth or across time when he was doing Vipassana. And this is of a senior practitioner who has done long retreats. This is during his rest period. This is across Vipassana interval. And this is of a teacher, and this is across Vipassana interval. What we have seen, the striking changes that we have seen is the rest state of a this is again novice, senior, teacher. This is what morning Dr. Hemant Kumar was also talking about, the default mode, changes in the default mode network. This is the neuroplastic change that is occurring, where we have found the theta alpha to be increased in the default mode activity of the brain. The theta and alpha, normally in the normal controls we see high alpha and decreased theta. Whereas in a meditator, we see the theta alpha occurring as a neuroplastic change. And during meditation, why this neuroplastic change is occurring? Because of meditative training. You can see that during the meditation, this is actually 6 to 8 hertz. This is the higher theta. Here the higher theta is within the group, the higher theta is getting affected. This is reflected as a neuroplastic change. And similarly, what we have observed is, this is the low alpha, 8 to 10 hertz. Here, in the previous slide, only the theta is seen in the rest state as a group difference, whereas in the meditative state, across all epochs of Vipassana, first epoch, second, third and fourth epochs, we have seen low alpha coming up as a significant group difference in addition to the theta alpha. This is low alpha in all the states, including rest and across Vipassana. So this is also in the metta meditative state, which is this meditation. Metta means Maitri. It is the loving kindness meditation where we see the, in contrast to the Vipassana training, in metta there are significant, this is group again. These are the group differences between novice, senior, teacher. During rest, this is during metta. In the metta state, there are significant group differences in theta. So, in conclusion, what we are trying to tell from these studies is that the Vipassana is intensely cognitive. Metta is a state which is intensely affective, that is emotionally, it has got emotional intensity. So, together metta and Vipassana, together they are changing the theta alpha, together they are modulating the theta alpha frequencies. That means these theta alpha frequencies are actually responsible for whatever well-being, the sense of subjective sense of well-being that a practitioner is talking about is because of the neural changes occurring within the theta alpha bands. And this is also our studies on the cognitive performance. Actually, this will be for somebody who is outside of this is a bit difficult, but still we would like to tell you that this is a measure of the cognitive performance where we see that these are the group differences, statistically significant group differences between a novice, senior and a teacher. We see that there are significant differences in the range of theta alpha. So this is something telling that the cognitive performance is getting affected because of the modulation of theta alpha, which is called the cortical tuning mechanism. The brain itself is getting tuned with these theta alpha frequencies in such a way as to enhance the cognitive performance. And this is also one of the, this is also a measure of, suppose we commit an error, how much we get sensitized to the error, or how are we responding to the error. This is measured by a test called error-related negativity. It is an event-related potential that measures our responses to an error. Here also, we see that these are actually, this is at this point of time, you can see that there is, this is for a teacher and this is for incorrect. Here you see that for a teacher, there is no deep dip. Actually, there is a deep dip for a senior, deep dip for a novice, whereas for a teacher, there is no deep dip. This is just I want to show you. That means for a response, when they have committed an error, they are not going to process the error more than the value it should be given. They are not giving more value to it than the value it should be given. So it is telling that they are able to actually time the responses. They are able to actually manage what is needed and they are able to cut off the unwanted thing. So the salience to processing is being affected by the meditative process. That means they are not ruminating over unwanted stuff. And these are some of the autonomic function studies that also talk about meditative state as a wakeful hypometabolic state, and it is because the balance is tilted towards the parasympathetic division, and possible ways of autonomic regulation are happening because of the regulation of respiration. It is the respiratory rate is slowed down, the heart rate gets decreased, and this and there is a decrease in BP. This corresponds to an increase in parasympathetic activity. So there is, and studies in our laboratory, I will come to that soon, have also shown, and then effects on immune system, increase in antibody titers to flu shot among healthy meditators has been observed, and there has been a negative correlation between the amount of Maitri meditative practice and induced stress immune response, and the T lymphocyte and natural killer cells in HIV patients actually increased for people who underwent MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction therapy. In those people, the T lymphocyte count and natural killer cell count has actually increased in HIV patients. And then there are also effects on hormonal systems where decrease in cortisol levels has been reported, increased levels of DHEA and prolactin have been reported, and increased levels of melatonin and contributing to the improved biology of sleep have also been studied. This is at enhanced and modulation of autonomic functions. This has also been, as I told you, there is a tilt towards the parasympathetic balance has also been observed in our laboratory. So this is also the sleep studies that have been going on. Here we have observed increased sleep cycles across ages, and there is what is called the slow wave sleep, which the quality of slow wave sleep will not decline with age, and there is increased REM density and duration, which are very important for cognitive functions, which seem to be enhanced with Vipassana practice. So overall sleep organization and architecture have been impacted by meditation. And also imaging studies have shown that there is increased, actually most of these topics Dr. Hemant Kumar has already covered, but there is increased cerebral blood flow in inferior and orbitofrontal cortex, dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, thalamus, and increased white matter integrity in the anterior cingulate cortex. This is all with most of the changes are occurring within the prefrontal cortex, which actually are the attention networks. This is, and later on I will come back to this slide where this, as Professor you have told in the morning, this is because because the novices actually in the novices this prefrontal cortex activity is more, whereas in the meditators this activity goes down. This tells that they will have to put less effort, as with experience the meditators will be effortless and they do not require the activity of the prefrontal cortex for most of the conscious or subconscious activities. And this slide, this is about the changes in the this also Dr. Hemant Kumar has covered. 8 regions of the brain are seen to be consistently getting activated. Anterior cingulate cortex, this is the anterior cingulate cortex, seems to be is seen to be getting active, whereas the decreased in multiple prefrontal regions has been observed in expert meditators, whereas the reverse happens in novice meditators, whereas this activity increases. And then the activity in the striatum, amygdala and the hippocampus, which actually is the seat for memory, the activity in all of these regions is enhanced, and therefore the attention control, the anterior cingulate cortex and the striatum and the emotion regulation components, the multiple prefrontal regions, the limbic regions and the striatum, along with the self-awareness, the posterior cingulate cortex and precuneus, these all of the systems that are necessary to regulate these mechanisms seem to be impacted with meditation, and whatever behavioral and physiological changes that we see is because of the basic changes occurring in these brain mechanisms. And we have also seen by our psychological studies, we have seen that not only we have assessed some of the well-being attributes, what actually contributes to the state of well-being of a person. In contrast to the existing Western psychological questionnaires, we have developed a questionnaire based on Indian model and especially on the Buddhist tradition, and we have observed that there is a development of wholesome qualities, reduction in unwholesome qualities, there is a general and social health improvement, that means in terms of their functioning at the personal and family level, and then improvement in cognitive aspects, improvement in Panchashila. This is what we have. The wholesome qualities constitute the generosity, the patience, the determination, loving kindness, equanimity, compassion. These are all a measure of well-being of an individual. We have found that with meditative practice, these are some of the qualities that have actually increased, and these are some of the qualities that have gone down. Envy, avarice, self-reproach, constantly a nature of a doubting nature, the conceited nature, kind of egoistic nature, deceit, hypocrisy, craftiness, insincerity, all these qualities which actually over a period of time in the long run contribute to the dissatisfaction and unhappiness of a person or going down with meditation. And the person is able to, he becomes aware of these qualities. First of all, meditation helps them that whether he is carrying these qualities or not, and in case he is carrying, meditation is actually helping him to overcome them. And then we have also assessed the cognitive factors like memory, concentration, his work efficiency, improved social relations, this is personal relations, all these things overall are contributing to the well-being. So the individual well-being is a measure of increased wholesomeness, decreased unwholesomeness, increased cognitive efficiency. So these are all that we could study through our test results. And then this is the graph that says where well-being and meditation proficiency are highly correlated. Positive correlation is seen here.